While every fan has different aspects of professional wrestling that they enjoy, from promos and character work to hardcore matches or technical bouts, it is ultimately all about ratings as far as the companies are concerned. Whether it's WWE, WCW, or AEW, each company cares about what numbers they're achieving for each episode of television they put out. That's because it ultimately pays the bills and determines whether or not they're deemed a success. This is why good booking is important, because it draws in crowds and people tune in on television. There's many ways to pop a quick number, though, from teasing a surprise or delivering a major title match. But sometimes promoters stoop low in an attempt to gain a rating, which has seen some poor stunts pulled over the years. 5. Tony Khan opts to show all-in footage. Tony Khan is notorious for heavily hyping situations for the sake of ratings, with his special announcements becoming a running joke among wrestling fans. But he was true to his word when he promised to air the backstage footage of CM Punk's fight with Jack Perry, which was seemingly a reaction to Punk discussing it in an interview. It felt like a cheap trick from AEW's standpoint, and it didn't serve to benefit anybody to air the dirty laundry. While AEW has turned it into a storyline with Jack Perry, there's no doubt this moment was all about ratings, and it was a low point for the company to hit. 4. Interviewing Melanie Pillman. Another disgraceful ratings ploy that WWE once implemented was interviewing Melanie Pillman on WWE Raw just 24 hours after her husband had died. Brian Pillman's passing was a shocking situation for everyone involved, but none more so than his wife. But rather than being left to grieve, she was interviewed live on air. It's hard to understand the true thought process behind this, particularly because the situation was legitimate. 3. Vince McMahon's limousine explodes. Professional wrestling is always at its best when it's allowed to be over the top, providing aspects of soap operas to the masses. But that doesn't mean fans like the idea of literal death taking place. It's not that type of content, but WWE attempted to make it that way during the infamous limousine explosion. The idea behind this spot was to kill off Vince McMahon's on-screen character. It would create drama for weeks following as people were going to work out who was responsible, but the company had to pull the storyline due to real-life events. It was a cheap ratings ploy and something that felt lowbrow. 2. WCW gives away Mankind's WWE title win. During the Monday Night Wars, both WWE and WCW were constantly trying to think of new ways to draw people away from the competition to their product. It led to plenty of cheap tricks, but the worst was when Tony Schiavone was made to pre-announce that Mick Foley was going to become WWE champion that night on WWE Raw. He mocked Foley by sarcastically claiming that the decision would put butts in seats. But that's exactly what it did. The idea was that WCW would spoil the result and people then wouldn't switch over, but that didn't work. Instead, more fans tuned in because of it simply to see Foley win due to how genuinely beloved he was. 1. Vince McMahon appears after allegations. Without a doubt, the worst rating stunt that has ever been pulled was on the June 17th episode of WWE SmackDown in 2022. The company was in the middle of a PR crisis after Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis were put under investigation following misconduct claims, which have since become even more severe. Dewey named Stephanie McMahon as the interim chairwoman of the company, but to tap into the buzz of the situation, Mr. McMahon decided to appear on television. It was announced ahead of time and drew tons of attention as Farr thought he might publicly address the situation or apologize. Instead, he welcomed people to the show and strutted along as if there were no problems at all.